High school should be a time to broaden one's perspectives. It can be far too easy in a town like Chatham to get wrapped up in the bubble and believe that Chatham is just like the rest of the world. Fortunately, it's just not the reality. English, I have found, is an incredible way to broaden one's perspectives without ever leaving the classroom or a chair. Reading books like The Catcher in the Rye, The Things They Carried, Night, Things Fall Apart, all these books provided me with a different perspective that wouldn't easily be attained otherwise. I mean, there's no other way to look into an African village when Christian missionaries were coming, or to, well, I guess I can perhaps relate to Holden Caulfield, but it was once again a perspective that I hadn't yet considered, and that was something that reading introduced me to, and that I wouldn't have had an opportunity to really understand or relate to even. And it was an interesting experience, I think, for me to go through the high school years, and just with each progressive grade, there was a different theme. And I remember Mrs. Gagliardi with The American Dream, and that having a profound effect on me. And that it was the first time we read a book about cowboys, and that was just, it was a perspective of the American Dream unlike that of There Will Be Blood, which was, well, not a book, but it's still something I was exposed to through the English department, in which it was more of a capitalist dog-eat-dog kind of American Dream, whereas the whole free-range cowboy aspect of All the Pretty Horses was just, especially the John Grady Cole character, just gave a fascinating, I hate to use the word again, but perspective of the American Dream, in which one's monetary success just doesn't matter nearly as much as one's self-fulfillment and achieving one's own personal goals. And I think that's what the American Dream kind of became more about for me junior year. And I think that was an interesting change in my own perspective that I really only got through the English department at the high school. Not only that, but just the opportunity to look at something that I wouldn't have otherwise seen at all. Whereas, sure, the American Dream was something that I was familiar with to an extent. I mean, it's in media, it's in literature, it's in movies. But I think when we read The Things They Carried about the Vietnam War, and that really transported you into those fields and into that muck and all that dirt and grime, and just gave you an idea of the filth that these men put up with, and the horrors and the atrocities they endured, was inconceivable to me that people went through this, that Americans my age now even went through this, that were given guns and shipped off to a foreign country when I myself haven't even been outside the United States. And that was just, to be able to relate to that was something that only a book like that could do. Where, I mean, sure, there's other forms of media that could do it, but the book provided an in-depth and really complex look at it from every angle, from the coming home to the leaving aspect to the fear. And these guys were just kids, many of them, and that it was an interesting perspective into a time not long ago at all. I mean, my parents' generation, that I wouldn't otherwise be able to access. And I keep coming back to that, but it's because I think it's truly where it all stems from. It's what books are for. It's broadening your horizons. It's learning about the world. It's experiencing the world from the comfort of your couch. And I think, especially living in a town like Chatham, it becomes so critical to have access to these kind of materials and to have access to spectacular teachers that I've had access to and that I've had the pleasure of learning from, and being able to share my ideas with, and not be shut down or criticized. That they share these books with us that take us places, and I think so many kids don't appreciate it. And I think, coming from Chatham, so many kids have such a warped perspective of everything. And I think, and I'm not saying that I'm perfect, and I know I certainly need to work on my horizons as well, and my perspectives on the world as well, because it can be far too easy to fall into that similar Chatham view trap. But I think if without the English department in the high school, we'd all be in a much sorer state and in a great deal more trouble as a society and as individuals. it's a great opportunity, and it's one that I look forward to working on in college. And well, I guess this is my last lecture, so theoretically I wouldn't be going to college. But fortunately, I am, and all of these lessons that I've taken from Mr. Ferguson and Mrs. Anderson and Miss Gagliardi, and the, the ridiculousness of Miss Marone that you can only get from Miss Marone as one of a kind teacher, is things that I'll take with me and carry and use to really explore all that I can and make the most of every opportunity given to me. Because I think that's what all these books have really taught me, is that every opportunity you have, you need to take, and that every opportunity to broaden your horizons and broaden your worldview is an opportunity you need to go and grab and seize. And literature is one of the easiest ways to do that.